Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time which you are watching this video. Let's go for another asynchronous class on superhero comic books in nowadays society. We are starting chapter 4 of McLeod's book. And this chapter is devoted to time frames. So let's go. So let's see. Each panel of a comic shows a single moment in time. And between those frozen moments, between the panels, our minds fill in the intervening moments, creating the illusion of time and motion. Like a line drawn between 2 points. Right? Nah, of course not. Time in comics is infinitely weirder than that. Let's take a closer look. Smile! Ah, that flash is blinding, Uncle Henry. Hehe. Oh, Henry, put that camera away, will you? Oh, let him be, Mom. He's just having fun. Well, if old Henry is gonna have much more fun, we may have to look up the wine the wine cellar. Check. Sure you want to move there, Jed? Single moment? Hardly. Even the brief sound of a flashbulb has a certain duration, short to be sure, but not instantaneous. Path. Far slower is the duration of the average word. Uncle Henry alone burns up a good second in this panel, especially since smile undoubtedly preceded the flash. Smile path. Likewise, the next balloons could have only followed the burst of the flashbulb, thus adding still more time. Ah, that flash is blinding, Uncle Henry. Hehe. Just as pictures and the intervals between them create the illusion of time through closure, words introduce time by representing that which can only exist in time, sound. With all its actions and reactions, a panel such as this could last a good half minute or so. But how could this be anything but a single moment? Our eyes have been well trained by the photography and by representational art to see any single continuous image as a single instant in time. But the actions that we see occurring seemingly at the same time obviously can't be. Another way to look at it, let's think of time as a rope. Each inch represents a second. Such a rope might be said to win something like this through our panel. Simplified, of course, since each balloon has its own twists and turns. And since each face and figure is drawn to match his or her own words, smile, path. Ah, that flash is blinding, Uncle Henry. Hehe. Those figures, faces, and words are matched in time as well. The properties of the single continuous image, meanwhile, tend to match each figure with every other figure. Single image, single moment. portraying time on a line moving left to right. This puts all the images on the same vertical axis and entangles up time beyond all recognition. Perhaps we've been too conditioned by photography to perceive single images as single moments. After all, it does take an eye time to move across scenes in real life. Each figure is arranged from left to right in the sequence we will read them, each occupying a distinct time slot. In some respects, this panel by itself actually fits our definition of comics. All it needs is a few gutters thrown in to clarify the sequence. Smile, path. Ah, that flash is blinding, Uncle Henry. He he. Oh, Henry, put that camera away, will you? Oh, let him be, Mom. He's just having fun. Well, if old Henry is gonna have much more fun, we may have to lock up the wine cellar. Check. Sure you want to move there, Jed? One panel operating as several panels. Not all panels are like that, of course. A silent panel such as this could indeed be said to depict a single moment. He's giving it his all, folks. If sound is introduced, this ceases to be true. But in an otherwise silent caption panel, the single moment can actually be held. He was giving it his all when these various shapes we call panels hold in their borders all of the icons that add up to the vocabulary of comics. All except one. For just as the body's largest organ, our skin, is seldom thought of as an organ, so too is the panel itself overlooked as comics' most important icon. These icons we call panels or frames have no fixed or absolute meaning like the icons of language, science, and communication. Nor is their meaning as fluid and malleable as the sorts of icons we call pictures. The panel acts as a sort of general indicator that time or space is being divided. The durations of that time and the dimensions of that space are defined more by the contents of the panel than by the panel itself. He's giving it his all, folks. He was giving it his all when panel shapes vary considerably, though, and while differences of shape don't affect the specific meanings of those panels vis-a-vis time, they can affect the reading experience. Which brings us to the strange relationship between time as depicted in comics and time as perceived by the reader. In learning to read comics, we all learned to perceive time spatially, for in the world of comics, time and space are one and the same. The problem is there is no conversion chart. The few centimeters which transport us from second to second in one sequence could take us 100 million years in another. So, as readers, we are left with only a vague sense that as our eyes are moving through space, they are also moving through time. We just don't know by how much. In most cases, it's not hard to make an educated guess as to the duration of a given sequence so long as the elements of that sequence are familiar to us. I always figured Mary Ann would go for Gilligan, I guess. From a lifetime of conversations, we can be sure that a pause panel like this lasts for no more than several seconds. But if the creator of this scene wanted to lengthen that pause, how could he or she do so? One obvious solution would be to add more panels, but is that the only way? Do you think the Sox could finally do it this year? I guess. Is there any way to make a single silent panel like this one seem longer? How about widening the space between panels? Any difference? Hey, I deserve a better job. I could be a brain surgeon. I guess. We've seen how time can be controlled through the content of panels, the number of panels, and closure between panels. But there's still one more. As unlikely as it sounds, the panel shape can actually make a difference in our perception of time. Even though this long panel has the same basic meaning as its shorter versions, still it has the feeling of greater length. That Madonna, man, she's one hot babe. I guess. Ever noticed how the words short or long can refer either to the first dimension or to the fourth? In a medium where time and space merge so completely, the distinction often vanishes. The panel border is our guide through time and space, but it will only guide us so far. As mentioned, panels come in many shapes and sizes, though the classic rectangle is used most often. Most of us are so used to the standard rectangular format that a borderless panel such as this can take on a timeless quality. Hey, are you even listening to me? I guess. When the content of a silent panel offers no clues as to its duration, it can also produce a sense of timelessness. Because of its unresolved nature, such a panel may linger in the reader's mind, and its presence may be felt in the panels which follow it. Let's take a look at the entire panel on our right. Yes. When bleeds are used, for example, when a panel runs off the edge of the page, this effect is compounded. Time is no longer contained by the familiar icon of the closed panel, but instead hemorrhages and escapes into timeless space, which I believe are very common to take place in mangas or in Oriental Eastern comic books because of the knowledge we've shared on the last chapter, how much detail the frame, panel, and the story gets and how richer it gets in Eastern world. Such images can set the mood or a sense of place for whole scenes through their lingering, timeless presence. Once again, this is a technique used most often in Japan and only recently adopted here in the West. In comics, as in film, television, and real life is always now. This panel and this panel alone represents the present. Any panel before this, that last one for instance, represents the past. Likewise, all panels still to come, this next panel for instance, represent the future. But unlike other media, in comics, the past is more than just memories for the audience, and the future is more than just possibilities. Both past and future are real and visible and all around us. Whenever your eyes are focused, that's now. But at the same time, your eyes take in the surrounding landscape of past and future. Like a storm front, the eye moves over the comics page, pushing the warm, high-pressure future ahead of it, leaving the cool, low-pressure past in its wake. Wherever the eye hits land, we expect it to begin moving forward. But eyes, like storms, can change direction. Yet, we seldom do change direction except to reread or review passages. It's left to right, up to down, page after page, at least in our Western format and type of reading. I will stop this class now and we'll continue on our Synchronous class this Friday. See you all there. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye bye.